Morning Facebook user. I don't know who you are because you're obviously using the Facebook art group. Unless you click on a link that I sent you, it doesn't put your name or your picture up here. All I see, I don't know which camera I'm looking at, all I see is Facebook user. So just stick your name up and then I'll know who I'm talking to on there. So yes, so I presume you can hear me. We've still got the sound problems off the cameras, so I'm using the laptop. And the problem with the laptop is when the fan gets going, you get a bit of background noise. So I've still got to work on this and figure out why, but never mind, we'll get there. So what we're doing today is this one. Let's see. Put the camera for you. That's down the river. That's down the river, just between the rugby club and the viaduct. The viaduct's just farther on around the corner. So we're going to do that scene, but we're going to do it a bit more sort of abstract. Not totally abstract, but just a little bit more. Morning, Billy. You all right? You go to Sam's Cafe. Are you over there now? If you're over there now, I'll wave to you. I can wave from here to Sam's. So yes, so we're going to do that. That little mark that's on the thing is just because I couldn't get the camera to focus. So I just put a mark up here to focus the camera. So it's just a little extra. So I've got a zoom in one there, so when I start actually doing the pastels, you can see it. So I'm on a darkish green pastel board. That's what we're using, and that's my pastels. That's the colours I'm sort of going to be using in at the moment. Facebook user again. Needs your volume turning up, does it? This is the problem with the is that better? I've turned the volume up, is that better? I'm going to have to get some sorted with the cameras because the microphone I've got didn't work. Everything's causing echo, so I'll have to get sorted with that. So it's just a work in progress and taking a lot more work than I thought it would. Back up at the house, when I'm doing it at the house, I don't have a problem. And I only have just a little mic and I have no problem. But here, I seem to have a problem. Can you hear me now all right? Can you hear me now? Right, well, yes, thank you. Right, well, we'll get sort of started. What I want to do, I'm not going to do this exact. There's quite a bit of overhanging foliage coming down. I'm not bothered about that. If I want to put it in, I'll put it in later. So I'm going to break it down into sort of the sky, the dark mass of trees just here, and then the pathway, the little pathway coming through, and the foliage in the river. The River Weir, for anybody who doesn't know it and stuff. You can hear me all right, good. I'll try and talk louder. So yes, so what I'm going to do is I want to go on the other camera so that you can see closer up. And I'm just going to rough in where we want to be. And like I said, I want this to be a bit different. I don't want it all green. I want it to look as though it's misty in the background in the footpath. So we'll start by putting in a little bit of blue into the sky, just to get it started in the background. So can you see that? Yeah. So I'm just sort of backing in a little bit of sky over to here. Sort of there. Now with pastels, you want a sense of vibrancy. So you need to add different colours so you get this sense of vibrancy. So I'm just going to add a little bit more, sort of a few streaks of purpley colour here and there, just to, this is sort of like a violet type colour. Just to give a variation, and you can see the green of the paper coming through. We'll cover that bit by bit. So the whole idea of pastels is layering it up. So bit by bit you just get it lighter, but you layer it up. So I'm just using a paler blue there now. And I'm pressing on places where I want to get into the paper a bit. So I'm pressing on harder, like that. So we've got hardness in the areas, and then just over the bits of violet, etc. I'm just dragging it loosely so parts of it show through. So you're just varying the colours, so you're getting a little sense of the colours showing through. So it's not just a white background. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of very, very pale blue into here. It's very pale, and it just wants to sort of catch a cloud effect here and there. So just sort of drifting it in. Putting a little bit of pressure on here and there, so you just lose some of the greenery through it. But just drifting, just sort of touching the paper, just drifting in. Morning, Janet. Signed into YouTube. Have you? All right. Oh, was that you earlier on then? Yeah. Morning, Janet. You all right? Two Janets. Janet Holmes, Janet Jackson. Yeah. I'm fine. I hope you two's right. YouTube seems to come through all right. It's the Facebook that seems to be a problem. Right. So we're getting a sense of the sky just build up. And what I'm going to do is build up each area and then go back into it. And alter things. So we need a little bit now of the foliage in the background, sort of the tree line going around the corner there. So we just want a little bit of bluey. You want some blue into this, because you don't want it to. Whenever you've got something in the distance, I know the photograph makes it look as though it's all the same, but when you want to draw something distant, you need to grade out with a bit of blue in it, so that it just goes backwards a bit, so it doesn't jump out. So I'm going to use a stronger blue and then build it up. So this is going to be sort of the tree line just in the distance. And once I've built the levels up where I want, then we can add a bit more detail to it in there. By adding the blue, you get a sense of distance onto it. And then we're just going to put a little bit of blue down into the water, downward strokes, just to suggest where that's going to be as well. And now you build up the sort of the levels, so you get a little bit of greenery into here. You can see that I can zoom in a little bit, but I'm frightened if I zoom in too far. I'll zoom in around there. That's all right. So this is going to be the trees, and I'm just putting it on and letting some of the blue show through. What you don't want for distant shots, like you don't want hard lines. You want them to melt into each other, so you get a blurredness to it. So I'm just putting a little sense of the darker green foliage along the bottom there. And that's going to be sort of the bottom of the water's edge there. I'll drag a little bit into that greenery there. We'll lift it up as though it's coming around the corner and coming nearer to us, which is what it is. So lift up from the blue and just lift the green out into the sky a little bit and just scrumble it. So you just get that softness. Just going through. I'm going to add a bit more light into it, but I don't want it to be bright. And I'll fetch down the sky if necessary in places where it's dark there. So you get that. Then you can get a sort of a lighter green, but you don't want it to be too bright at this stage. You want a sort of a dullness type of yellow, just so a little bit more paler green, and just dust into it. Can you see it? Just dusting in. Just to create that sense of foliage teasing back. There's a big mass of trees on this side. So you're just dusting in little bits. not covering the blue, letting the blue show through in places, and then just going back in with your blues, and just creating a little bit of blue here, just sort of dot it in, just push it in, so you're creating a vibrancy rather than just being a green. I'm just, so there's little bits of blues in there, just trying to create this vibrant feel. And we'll just sort of darken the bottom down. What I'll do is I'll put this massing over here so that you can see what's coming sort of in front, this area here. So I'll put that in down there with the blue. Wants to come from about here, like that. So this is going to be the trees on the left hand side, and just coming down into the river, like that. So I'll put them in a stronger blue as well, and then I'll lighten them up. So we want to get them lighter in places where there's greens in. So I've got a green pastel, there we go, and just scrumbling that in. Just lightly, just to create the edge. Now you can put it in, like I said, blend it upwards and break it into the sky. So it's not you don't want a hard line, you want it to blend with the sky, so that it gives you a sense of a little bit of movement on the trees, and not a hard, heavy edge. A little bit of angle just to sort of create that feeling of light, and then down for the sort of the reflection in the water. Down there like that. I'll zoom out when we come farther down and move the easel. I'll stay here while we upright, and I'll sort of drop the easel down. So you get the area. Now just under the trees you've got the bank side, so you'd have a little bit of light bank side just going out round the corner like that. Just round the far side, just a little bit. And then you just have a little sense of reflection of that as well. Just coming into there like that. So that's just giving you, we're just shaping up to where we are. A little bit more light into a couple of edges of them trees, just to soften them. There's nothing catching the sun a bit more. Nothing too much, just a little flick in here and there. And I'll go over the sky because I want the sky to be lighter in places. I don't want the sky to be so dark. Right, and then darken down just underneath these trees with a strongish, very dark. It's like a purple and blue really. It's just giving some shadow under the canopy of the trees. Like that. And that's going to go behind this foliage here. So just a little sense of, it's all about shimmer more than painting in colourful trees. I'm going to go into the sky and just lighten that up a bit because it's just a bit too dark in places. So I've got a very pale blue, very light blue, and like I said, dust it into the trees. Don't sort of have a hard edge. Just blend it in. I'll go back over the tops of the trees in a second. You've got to be putting colour in, but you've got to sort of let some of the original blue show through. Don't obliterate it. So harder edges some here and there, but just softer edges as you're scrolling over or scrolling over the other parts like that. And you would also have this pale blue. You would have it coming down the water like this as well, into the river. But I'll get to that. So what we want now is the darker batch of trees over the side. Now when you're doing a pastel with trees, it's the same actually as acrylic. Don't put the sky behind and then try and draw tree branches through it all. Put a mass of trees in, and I do the same on acrylics. Put a mass of trees in, then punch the sky into it as though it's through it. You'll see it as I go along. Right, so got that round there, focus that a bit. I'll just go out a fraction so that you can see the edge. There you go. So we've got this big mass of trees coming down here, this dark patch of trees. So we want a lot of dark blues and greens into this. We've got to build this layer up. So I've got a strong blue, and I'm going to sort of come down the bank side down here. So it wants to be down here. So this is a strong, can you see how strong that blue is? And I'm pushing that up, which is going to be the edge of the trees. Pushing that into these areas here. We want a dark mass down here. And the trees want to finish just below that eye level there. So they want to be about there. And so that the foliage along the pathway can be picked up into it, you need to fetch it farther down towards the path. You need to fetch it farther down so that when you push the foliage in, it will have some dark behind it to work from. And because you've got a dark green paper as well, you can just very lightly touch in and you'll see bits of the original colour showing through. I'm going to miss out, there's a little tree just off. I might put it in, I'll just wait and see. I'm just going to put these tree edges in here. Put some sharper edges in just across here so it fetches it forward. So I'm using sort of the point of the blue a little bit, just building up the tree level. I'm not putting the overhanging branches down, at least I'll wait and see whether I need them. So you've got a really strong blue underneath, and then now you sort of start building up the darker greens, etc. So I've got a sort of a darker green into here, and I'm just going to blur that in over the blues, so that you're getting just that sort of shimmer. You want it's like a dusting over it, so you just sharpen edges afterwards. And the trees go off the pictures, they go up, so it's like a mass of trees along the river. The rugby club it's as though you're walking from the rugby club down Bishop to it. Does anybody make comments? What colour pastel paper are you using? Sorry, John. I looked at the thing. It's sort of a dark green, like an olive green, that type of colour. I'm using that so that if I miss bits, there's no white paper showing through. Do you know what I mean? It's if you use white paper, you've got to cover in case of white. But here I can just dust it in, and if there's just little bits of paper showing here and there, then that's not a problem. So I'm just dusting that over like that, just letting some of the blue still show through. I'm not obliterating it, I'm just going into it and getting these sort of stronger edges going. So I want some sort of sense of blacker parts of the trees, darker parts of the trees. So I'll get a stronger dark. I had one somewhere, I put it down and can't find it anymore. I had a darker pencil and I've lost it. I'll find another one. I'll find another one. I can't find another one. Where's that dark gone? Right, I've lost me dark that I put down. Someone's pinched it. Right, okay then. I'll try and make this stronger without the darker pencil. So I'll zoom in a bit for you. The trouble is on this now, I'm touching my cameras, I'm touching my computer, laptop, etc., my mouse with pastel covered hands. Right, so can you see the darker sets of trees? So just putting some darks in there, like so there's trees going up. I'm going to break them up. I'm not going to have them showing too much, but you're going to put them in so that when you scrumble over, you will have some darker trees here and there. sense of branches going through there like that. Just getting them in like that. So you get this darker area. Right? I'll find that dark pastel the moment I pack in. Right, I'm going to put a little bit more blue, like a paler blue altogether, a brighter blue into here, just to create some different colours. So can you see that just going in? I'm going to zoom in even farther for you. Well, you can't zoom in any farther, that's as far as that goes. Can you see the bright sort of streaks of blue just there? I'll turn this easel around a bit. Can you see just brighter blues here and there? Just put some accents in. Like I said, it's all about getting a sense of vibrancy into this picture, just an edge like that. Don't overdo it, just a few flicks into there. And then you want some lighter greens in, just softly in a few spots. So you just want a sense of lighter greens near the edges. So just a little bit of drifting in through the trees, so you just drift over it. So you're just creating a sense of bits of green foliage here and there. You're breaking the level up. I might put some dark in. I want it stronger down here so that the grasses show up better against it. Just a light dusting. Rod, hi Rod. Been watching but unfortunately can't stay. Alright Rod, that's fine. You have the same problem, Billy. Yeah, it's alright. I'm only here just to see what we can get. Now I'm going to darken it down because we need this to be stronger. I either darken this down around this area or I lighten that area up because I want a silhouette of this against it. So I am going to darken that area down and see if I can find the pastel that I lost. Where can I find it? It's gone. 1 second. No. No, I put a dark pastel down and I've lost it, so we'll just have to continue on. The only way I can make this darker without this dark pastel is to put a lot of dark blues in down here. Excuse me. Put some stronger blues in. Fetch them out over the edge. And then go into it with a little bit of brown and crimson, just to get a darker feel of it. And you want other colours in, so I'm going to just go into that with a brown. You can mix some darks by just putting nice bits of scrumble over it, bits of dark blue, bits of brown in, bits of crimson, so you're creating just an edge. It's all about just lifting bits out and just creating edges. So you can even put some little sticks of the brown, the burnt sienna here and there as well. So you're just creating an edge. I can't get this much darker because I can't find me darker sticks, which is strange. So I'm going to lighten that area up at the back so that it stands out a bit better. So I'm just going to get a paler green and yellow. Going to add a little, I'm just adding a little touch of bit of yellow ochre in here and there, so it just changes the colouring just over there, like that. And then a lighter yellow, nothing bright. You're better off with sort of a yellow ochre for the distance, so you're better off with the yellow ochre. And you want to make that bank side there, so it's catching the sun a bit in places, which it is. So just a little flicks of this very pale yellow ochre in here and there, just across that across that pathway that's going off into the distance. And it just wants to be a pale green. You don't want a bright yellowy green in this distance, so I'm just using, can you see, just little touches of a pale green, very pale. Just across the tops, just to get that feeling of distance. I'm just going to scrumble very lightly over it, and like I say, just blend it into the sky. Don't try and end with a hard edge. I'm going to put a little bit of pink in here and there. Just some touches, just little odd touches that just help lift the green. If you put in little bits of accents of red and pink in amongst green, that's when you get some nice nice contrasts. I can't find out on my desk, everything is covered in murk. I've got the same problem now. My laptop is covered in murk. So just little touches, and I'm going to blue out. I'm just going to put some pinks down into there, like that. And I'm just going to blue into that bottom background. Just a slight blurring of blue. I'm just picking pastels up, so just into there, just a little, just going into where you put the darkest shadows, just drifting a little bit of bluey haze across it. And you see, just pushing them trees back by just drifting that bit of bluey haze across it. And that shoved them back a little bit. Now this one wants to be brighter still over here. So you want quite a lot of light coming down that side. So you can come round to this outside edge of this foliage that's down here. And start adding, I'll fetch it round again. Start adding some stronger, it's sort of a dull yellow really. And fetch that as a blur in front of this range of trees back there, and it's sort of a dropped line. Pull your brush down, your stick down, and create that sort of drop of foliage into there. I'm just going to zoom back out because you can't see all the picture. There, so just pulling that foliage down. Get that out a little bit into the water. Little touch of light across the top edges. Breaking that into there, like that. Now that's going to be your water there, that's not going to be tree all the way down, that's going to be water underneath, so you'll get that afterwards. And then you need some lighter yellows onto that side. So we're going to brighten that side up a little bit, just where it's coming in front. So just a little bit of pastel, just drag round that outer edge as though it's catching the light a bit. And again, just break it out in front of them trees, the background trees, just break it out in front of them. Get a little shimmer down there. Just continue reflection down. We have to darken underneath, otherwise it'll just look like all tree. We have to darken underneath. So you want that little bit of light just going off. This is sort of the pathway just going along the back over there. So we want that just to be a bit duller just in there. Now you've got a pathway coming down through here. So you've got a pathway coming down here, and you've got a mass of foliage which is going to be sort of, this is going to be your foliage across here. So your foliage is going to be here, and your pathway is going to be sort of coming through vanishing behind this mass of trees and coming through up here. So that's going to be your pathway, just a guide for it really. And this is going to be all foliage. We've got lots more to do with the trees and that yet. The best thing to do as well is to have some tissue, a roll of tissue, and when you finish with your chalk, just rub it on the tissue and it gets rid of the dust, because if you don't, every time you use it and pick it up, it'll be contaminated with the previous colour. Now we want, before we get these trees sorted out, we want to punch some light, some sky into these trees, as though you can see through them, so there's bits of light. So you want a similar colour to this, sort of a bluey. You don't want to be dead bright, because it would look too bright, but you want to sort of punch in some lights into here, so you can see through them. So little touches. I'm going to zoom in on that for you. Move the thing around so you can see it. Can you see? So just punching in little fractions of light into there. So instead of having to paint, instead of painting tree trunks, you're painting the sky behind. Just dotting in it, and it breaks the trees up, so you can put a bit more up here. This flicks, just getting the areas built up at the edges. You can fetch some, you know, I need to get it a bit. The thing is as well, if I make them colours there, those, as bright as I make that, they'll look too bright because it's got dark behind it, which will make them look just a bit too bright. So you can't afford to make them as light as the sky, but you can add some little bits of lighter blue into it in places. So just breaking the tree edges up, so you just sort of dotting in and creating light through these trees. You see, just loosely dragging pastel through in parts. You've got to be careful you don't do too much, because you see the sky, but you obviously won't see the sky down here. You'll see some maybe little sense of blues coming down here. So I'm just going to put a darker blue in, a slightly darker blue in, just down into here a bit, as though it's just getting a bit. Can you see just some little bits of blue? So you're just getting a sense of other colours coming through. And this is what pastels are all about, creating vibrancy, touching in other colours and just creating this sort of sense of vibrancy. I want that to be darker. Someday I'll find me darker pastel. Right, I'm just going to make this bottom edge here darker. Darker than the background, so it just stands out a bit. And then I'll lighten parts of it as though the sun is picking out little bits. So just creating a sense of trees into here. And this wants to overhang a bit, wants to sort of hang out a little bit, as though the pathway is here and the trees are just hanging out over the edge. So just darkening that section off a little bit. And I'm going to make it really strong and dark just into this sort of area here. Just so you feel as though it's in shadow a bit. And you've got browns showing through here and everything. You've got bits of all sorts, so instead of just being green, it's got various colours in. You do an odd tree trunk through some of the light, like that. So we've got a nice dark just overhanging there. We've got dark foliage, we've got dark shadow going across here, so we've got dark foliage down in this bottom corner. I'll just, I'll tell you, I can put the, just put the easel up a fraction. So you can see this dark corner down here. This is like a dark purpley blue, and it wants to come out and sort of sit over the, where's the picture? Sit out over the pathway, so it wants to be out there like that. That's going to be the pathway. This is going to be the darker foliage just here. And then you've got darker foliage over this side of the path. Just zoom out for you. So you can see the bottom edge. That's this, you've got dark down here. This is the pathway. I'm going to break that up. And this is the foliage across this edge here. So we want various colours. That's too bright for the pathway. So you want ochres and that through it. So you just need to get some different ochres and tone it down. So I'm just finding different colours and just toning this pathway down in places. Just shoving colours through, so that it's sort of an ochre like that. I'll close in as I do each section. I'll close in for you. So I'll close in now. It's going to take me weeks to clean this mouse. So can you see the batches of ochre and that just across here? It's just various colours just to break that path up. The path doesn't want to be bright yellow. So I'm just putting a little, and I'm doing them across, like parallel across the paper a little bit, and dragging them into the darker foliage. Just dragging them into the darker foliage. Can't get this easel to go any farther. Might be able to knock the camera down a fraction for you. Oh, see the camera. And fire, just load the other camera at a fraction. Just going to lower it a bit. There, you should be able to see the bottom of the paper there now. You see the bottom of the paper? And fire, 1 second folks, 1 second. That was my fault. I've been on the wrong view. I've just loaded down. Sorry, I was on the Commons view. Picture is coming to life quickly, but it comes to life quite quickly. But I've got to tone this down. I don't want it to be dead bright, so I'm putting this ochre in. Now I can probably zoom in. I had the camera set wrong. That's it. You're not missing anything there. Wait a second, there. That's just the edge of the paper, but I'll come into that. So put little bits of this colour into this as well. Sometimes what you want to do is to blend other colours in. So you want little strands of colour into places that keep reflecting. So we put some pinks in across there. So if you put some pinks, little bits of pinks into here, it picks up. So just dotting little bits of pink way across the path here and there. Just adding little senses of colour into it. And there's little bits coming up through here. Trying to move it round. There you go, just to see them pinks there. And in here. Get a blur first of this foliage. You just want this foliage to be sort of a blur of various colours. Now we want some shadows of this. It's no use having bright pathway going along. The trees are here, they're casting shadows down, so you want shadows going across, so you want sort of a, don't make it, I'm looking for me violets, don't make it black or grey. I've got sort of a violet colour in it, and I'm going to drag a violet colour across here, just pale, and a little bit across there here, and just create some shadow, and then put some darker shadow in patches. I'm just blending over all the pathways so the pathway is just toned down a little bit. It's not dead bright. Like that. So you're just toning that pathway down. And then we're going to drag foliage out and across into it. And then you want dark shadow. So you want a darker feeling of the violet. So you want a darker colour altogether. So got this one's quite strong. zoom in for you. And I'll turn the camera around. So I realise now I'm getting better. I can turn the camera around and pick into it better. So I've got a sort of a reddy crimsony colour, and I'm just going to go across here. There's going to be stronger shadow, but I don't want it to be one sort of colour, so I'm just adding little bits of darker colour across here and little bits through the pathway back there, and I need to make it stronger than that, so I'm going to go where have I got it, yeah, a strongish blue. And you don't fill it in solid, you sort of break it in places and let it just scrumble over parts of the shadows that you put in, parts of the colour you put in. So you create a shadowy feel across here, some individual lines. And the pathway just wants to get less. And then we'll pick out one or two brighter parts. Right. Using the same colour, just drag up into this foliage sort of in front. You just get the darks behind. Same with that. You drag over, making a softer area, and then gradually we put individual colours into it. You can see very close up where some of the blues are that I've put in, and you can do that all the time. Just little streaks, even a brighter blue here and there will just give you that little accent. So even, can you see, just a little flick of a brighter blue here and there. So the trees aren't just green. And I'll just put a little bit more sky in just here, around this area here. Just some sharp accents, as though you can see through it. That's all right. And I'm going to put a little bit of that blue, just trace down across this pathway a little bit, so you get the same sort of sense. It's sort of picking up lights from one to another, so that everywhere you look has a slight feel of another colour. So that's fine for the moment. What we want is to get the water in, so I'll turn the easel around a bit so that you can see the water and then far trees. There you go. So I'm going to put this water level in now. So what we've got to do first of all is darken the underneath of these trees. There we go. I need a cameraman as well. So we're going to darken it here, otherwise we haven't got any separation between them. So you want a sort of a darker blue. And the level of the trees here wants to be just below that level, as though the river's going round. So imagine a line going there from that tree there and coming back up to here. So that's sort of the bottom of where your trees are going to be. What you need to do now is just lift some darks up into here and there. So you're just creating this sort of foliage underneath, like the undergrowth. So like that. Fetch the dark down, just slightly drag it downwards. Slightly drag it downwards, so you're creating that edge, and then we need a bit more bluey green into there, so we want a sort of a bit of blue in. I want to get a feeling of blue into that. So I'm just dragging a blur blue here and there, letting some of the light show through, but just dragging a blur and drag it down into the dark that you did, so that it breaks the dark up. So you're just breaking that dark up as well. Sue, hi Sue, you alright? I keep forgetting to look down at the screen, so I don't know where we are. Got a visitor. Hello. We've got Alison. Alison's visiting. Are you alright?
Yes, how are you?
I'm fine, I'm just playing away. You come to get some work done. It's difficult when people are behind masks.
I know.
You know, picking people out. Right, so I've got the blues in here just to tone that yellow down so it's not so strong. Into the dark and drag it down into the water below. So just drag it down, downward strokes into the water below. Just lose that heavy dark like that. Take it across that sort of area a bit, so just little drifts down. Need to get some sharp, a bit more darks into there, I think. Are you alright? It's getting all these cameras to work, you know. The sound keeps picking up other cameras are picking up the speakers off other ones, even though I've turned them off, you know. Just darkening down under these trees a little bit. Just getting a sense of the overlap. I'll put some colour in the bank side, but I'm just sort of trying to get a sense of shadowy undergrowth under these trees, and then come down to a stronger line. And like I said, blur the lines together. Don't have hard lines all over the place. Blur, push them in, but then blur them. Like that, so you've got a sense of the blur. Alright, see you later on. Just building it up. Once you've got everything built up, then you can go in and really highlight. This is too bright for my liking, this yellow, so I'm going to tone it down. I'm just going to put in some downward colours for the water. Get the water done, so I'm going to fetch downward greens down here. It's going to be reflecting from them trees down through here, and then a little bit duller green back there, so sort of a duller colour just here. And this is sort of a reflection of those trees. That's right, like that. You've got that. You need to lighten it up in places now, so you need just a few lighter strokes, especially as it's getting farther down, because it wants to be reflecting the top edge a bit. So as you're getting farther down, just drag in this lighter green from there and just gently trace it over the top. Put more pressure on as it's coming down through here. And a little bit more pressure just there where it's reflecting this tree. We need some sky in here. So we need some sky in now. So you need a sort of a palish blue just to get that skyline in there. Now rather than just put blue in, I'm putting some very light violet in, very pale violet. So you get a sense of light on the parts of it. So that's going into there. And just same principle, just gently tease it up so that they blend together. And then we need some light into there now, so we need a paler blue. And a paler blue still. And you see that just going in just down the bottom, and I need to get a brighter light into there. And I'm going to drift this across into these trees a bit, just lightly, so that there's a softening together and a sense of movement on the water, rather than just being a perfect reflection. And then I'm going to use a very light colour to lighten the sky up, so I'm going to come in with a very pale blue and just get this light area in. So I'm pushing it in down hard down the bottom where you want the reflection of this sky, but I'm sort of just gently pushing it back up into that colour there, so it's just drifting upwards. And then what you can do is afterwards, you can, where that sense of reflection is off there, you can go back into it, because I darkened it off a bit, just with a sort of a duller ochre type colour, and just create a little bit of reflection of that, of them sunlit banks, just a little bit like that. And again, just drift them down, just side of the pastel, just drift them down. Right, lighten this tree up on this side. It's just too green, too yellowy. So I'm just putting in some light edges, really to lift it away from the background. So I'm just drifting in some light edges across there. One or two just down there. And just a slight reflection of them lighter edges, just a little touch to sort of suggest them lights down there. And instead of downward strokes, I'm just dragging a few across, so you get a sense of ripple on the water. So just a few just dragged across here and there. You can do the same over here. I wouldn't use a long thing. You'll make it too, you need a smaller, either that or you take it sideways rather than long, and just drift in a few little sense of light just here and there. You just blur it out with your finger a bit. It just wants to be as though there's a ripple in the water. There's been a fish in there. A little bit more into there. Just getting that darker patch just done like that. So what we've got to get done now, I'm going to add, like I said, I'm going to add a few little bits of pink into this, because just little touches, and it just adds accents to the, and it changes the greens. I want some bit more sharper up there, I think, in colour. So just a little sense of reflection of them pinks here and there, just in the water. So I'm using sideways strokes. I'm going to zoom in. It's getting, I can't zoom in much more really. Can you see the little strands of pink just there? So, can you send me the photo? Yes, I will do. So, Janet, golf course. All right, you're going golfing again. Little touches of pink. Don't over egg it. Don't over egg it. It just wants to be enough just to give you that that vibrance, just a little. If you add too much, I'm going to just turn the easel round so you can come round to this, the darker side, and then change the camera. There. So we're coming back over to here now. I'll just lower this down a fraction so you can see the top. So can you see the tops of the trees there? in that. And you can add little shimmers of pink into here and there, just a dusting. Just a dusting, and it all pulls the picture together. And you see how I haven't tried and made these hard edges. They sort of, just wipe that a bit there. They just sort of blurred. That way you get a sort of feeling of movement onto the tree. So they just sort of blurred. I'll zoom out because it's just too close in to see the general effect of it. And take the camera. Up a bit, down a bit. There you go. So you get that general effect. What we've got to do now is get a little bit of light into it. We want darker shadows across that path, so I'm going to tone the path down even stronger, and I'm going to use a dark sort of violet. So I'm just coming in here and putting a darker violet, like a crimsony blue, across it to create a warm shadow rather than a dark shadow. And same principle, drag some of it blurred into your foliage so you get colour moving from one area to another. And that pathway wants to get smaller as it's going round behind the trees. And little bits of shadow kicking across it here and there. Right, I'm just going to add a bit stronger purple to that, a bit stronger still. Especially in the foreground. It doesn't need to be so much in the distance, but especially in the foreground. Now you've got to pull a couple of lights into that. It's no use just having the shadows. We need to suggest a little bit of light into it in places. And I'm dragging the same colours up into this. I'm just blurring them in up here, up through the water's edge. So you're creating various colours, and then we put in the stronger feel to this. You want individual bits of grasses into this picture across here, so that could go up there like that. So I'm just going to put a bit of light, extra light onto the pathway, and nothing bright yellow, but I'm going to use a sort of a pale yellow ochre, very pale, and just create a little bit of light into parts like that. Can you see? So the sunlight is just getting through the trees in little flicks here and there. A bit down into here. Bit down into here. And then just as it's going underneath this foliage round the corner, as though there's sunlight just round the corner of them trees there. There's sunlight there, just catching it. What we want now is some foliage into here, bright foliage in front of the sky. I still feel as though I need to blow that foliage down over that side a bit. I'm just going to get a little bit blue. I've got a harder one here. That's better. I might put a tree trunk in there. There is a tree trunk, but I might just get a little bit more sense of shadow with the blues into that area there. That's all right. Right. I might lighten the sky up as well. We'll sort that out. Right. So for the foliage, we need to, let's have a look at it. There it is. So we've got a strong shadow there, but I've actually lightened patches up. And we've got the trees over there and the reflections down there. What I want to do is create all these grasses now here in between across there. So I need to create them. So what you do is a mixture of colours, just getting some dark, some lights, and you're just stranding them. So I've got brown, and I'm going to just put strokes in like this of brown. Just crisscrossing, and take some of them up over the edge of the river. And I'm going to vary the colours. I'm going to put more colours in, just little touches and flicks like that. I'll lift it up a bit. You know, when I bought this easel, I didn't realise how low the ceiling was. If I lift it up too far, I'll punch a hole in the ceiling. So can you see that just the little flicks? And as you get farther away, just thinner, just little dabs in. You're trying to create a sense of foliage just in front of this river here. And do the same over here, just crisscrossing strokes up to here. You're going to add lots of strokes, and then you're going to create these sort of shadowy bits just underneath. So just lots of strokes like that, just crisscrossing it. It's just you put a blur underneath of colour like we did, and then you're just adding individual strokes with the side of the pastel, so you can vary the strengths of the colour. So little bits of blues, just pale, sorry, just dull, just you're building up a level. You're building up a level. What time is it? Oh, we're all right, miles away. And then we're going to start adding some real lights into this pathway, this walkway, and this foliage. When you do this, as you're doing, it's a sort of a dull blue, like a grey blue. When you do these lines in, drag some of it out into the shadow. So you're creating a unity to the picture. So just drag some of it out, and don't obliterate everything, but drag some of the colour across, so you're creating this little sense of unity into the shadow there. Right, now we want some sort of lighter ones here and there, so a bit of dull green, there you go. So the same thing, just a few flicks. I'm just sort of touching with the edge of the pastel and just crisscrossing. As you get into where the water's edge is, sort of just dot it into the water. You've got to sort of remember that this area is in shadow. It gets brighter as it goes through, but this area down here is in shadow, as is this. So you're just putting the greens in. Got any more comments? What's better? I don't know what's better. The problem is, I think, so is that it's getting the cameras right. I'm having to go to each, and if you look at my hands, I'm getting hold of my laptop and my cameras and just making a mess of them. I'll have to get our lid to clean them after. Right, so as you're doing this, just light flicks. Don't draw hard, don't press on hard, just light flicks. We do lots of loose flicks in watercolours, but here we're doing light flicks. And this, as I say, is the shadowy area down here. So you're just creating little bits of colour into there. I'm just going to drag a little bit of the same colour out over there, so there's a separation between that path going round the corner and here, as though there's shadow here and a separation going round the corner. Maybe I have to fetch the foliage out a little bit more over here. Right, and vary colours, so I'm going to put some lighter ochres in here and there now, so just a little bit of light ochre and just touches. You can probably see them building up. I'll zoom in closer on all the picture afterwards. If I zoom in too far, I'll lose where it's at. So you can just notice all the little flicks here and there. And we're going to put it more light over there. Same over here, just one or two flicks of light into this area here. Like I said, there's all sorts of colours in here. Can you see the blues and the lights and bits of pink here and there? It all adds vibrancy to the picture. It's not just a dull sort of picture down. You can do some softer colour here and there. I'm just going to get a lighter yellow and start lightening up where we want the light to be catching, which is about here. So I've got a lighter yellow just there, and I'm just going to push it in lightly first, just over the top edge, and just sort of drift it down into this foliage here. Just drift it down around that outside edge, and just drift it down into there, and then continue on with some lighter strokes. So you're sort of pulling some lighter bits of strokes down here, and even some lighter one. You don't want too much individual strokes back there, because that's meant to be farther away. Do you know what I mean? You can have one or two, but you don't want too many over there. You want it brighter just here, and then this is coming down into shadow, so the shadow is coming right across it, but you can put one or two just individual strokes just round the edges like that. So you're just picking out some individual bits here and there. What's the picture like that here? So be careful that you don't, this wants to be darker. You can have the odd one in like that, you can have an odd flick in of light, but you don't want it to be too bright, so you contrast it. It stops that light being on there. So we've got the same over here in this corner. So you've got the sun's coming down, and when we put this light in here, we'll take it across there, like you see on the picture. So this area here is where the sun's catching as well. So I'm just going to put in a little bit of pastel with the side. Need to clean your pastels quite regularly, like what I do. And I want this to be an angled bank coming across with some individual bits just up here. So I'm just pushing the pastel into it at the moment, just to create this lighter patch of foliage over here. Blur some of it down into the rest, just blur it down, and then one or two just individual ones just catching the light. So you feel as though the light's just breaking through in certain parts and just catching the light down there. And fetch that same light when you do it. I'm going to take it a bit higher. But when you do it, just fetch that same light across the pathway. So it feels like you're getting a blast of sunshine across the edge there. Now then, same principle applies. Get a bit of pink, or a bit of, you can even get some light light violet, and just put one or two lighter strokes of violet in, just so you can build up this mass of strokes. And if you can keep your hands clean while all others around you are losing theirs. Right, and a bit of pink. Just a slight dusting of pink in here and there. A little dusting of pink into that edge there. And then I'm going to use some really brighter colours to lift this sunshine out. A little bit of lighter pink through the pathway here and there. that's looking all right. What we want now is real brightness onto these trees. So we need some really lighter greens and yellows. So I've got a nice bright green here, right? And I'm going to dot and dash in the distance here with this brighter colour. Just dragging the odd one down into the shadow, but dot and dash up here. And dot and dash into the water's edge. This side, and do the same over here. It's sort of just quick dashes and dots, and you're pulling it down with the same dots into what you've previously done. So it's not a sudden edge. You're breaking the light sharper up here, and gradually teasing the odd line down into there. And again, I want it to go across the pathway a little bit brighter. Right, there. What we need now, I don't know whether to just drag in, what's the picture like? Just like a little bit of light through there. I like the tree just overhanging the edge, so I'm going to leave that a bit. Keep your pastels clean. So if you sort of rub it on, you get that. The trouble is, when you turn it round to rub the other side, you don't get that. Now then, we want a really bright feel to this. I want a nice strong yellow, and I've got a nice strong yellow here. So we're going to get a real feeling of light into that. Can you see the strength of that yellow? So in the distance, just dotting in little dots, dotting them up into the river's edge a bit, and just dotting one or two down. So I will zoom. Can I zoom in? I will zoom in on it for you. Can you see that? Is it blurred? Just try and sharpen it up. That's more blurred. I do need to alter the cameras. Anyway, you can see what it. So it's bright, really bright cadmium yellow here, just dotted in round these edges. And like I said, dot it over the river, dot it out into the river. But don't fetch the brightness all the way down here. You can have the odd one here and there, and the odd line coming down, but you don't want, you can take the odd one just out there so the sun's catching a little bit coming across here, so you can drag the odd bit out there. But you basically want it to be brighter there, and then we're going to add some little bits of flowery edges in, so you can dot a little bit of yellow around here. And I don't want too much. I want the brighter yellow to be there and across here. So I'll have to move the camera around a bit so you can see that. Can you see that now? So brighter yellow into here, really bright accents. You're getting a blast of sun coming in across this picture. Some individual strokes again. across there like that. And then you need to suggest the foliage is looser and up, so you need to sort of put in some little dots and dashes just to put, you don't need to have stalks going to them, but you can suggest little bits of looser bits of tops of grasses and edges just breaking up into that. That's what gives you the contrast up here, so you can just put one or two into here. One or two bright accents onto your path where your sunshine is. So you're just dotting these grasses in. Yeah, well, some of them slightly bigger than others, so like I said, you don't need to join each dot up with a stroke or something like that. You can crisscross one or two just down into here, just so you get a variety down into here. Like that. Now I want to make some lighter, brighter, whiter ones. That took some saying, lighter, brighter, whiter ones. I've got a nice sort of I've just lost it, a pale yellow just here, see. Yeah. Just slightly bit brighter in places. And you can dot some of them down into here so that it feels as though you're getting one or two little, that girl down there is making a hell of a racket. Just feels as though you're getting one or two into the grasses here. Pathway going through, one or two down here. Now we're going to add some of the colours into here as well. Just so, I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. It's pastel dust. You know, in the States they've gone a bit wary of it, but they always do in the States. They're making pastel fans and suckers, things to suck the pastel dust into and everything. And it's just a bit overboard, I think, but I could be wrong. It could be right. So you've got that little bit of pathway just going around the back of the tree, sort of going through and underneath, and it comes round to walk over to there. Can you see that bit over there? So you just into there and through there. Put some odd little bits of sunlight just breaking through, some just little touches of sunlight breaking through in little bits. Right, what we want to do now then, you can actually, I'll tell you what, you can actually drift a little bit of colour into the tree tops a bit. I've just got a pale green, not much, and I'm just going to drift round about here. Just a little bit of light dusting. Just doing a little bit of light dusting, just to create a sense of light in a couple of spots. So the trees aren't all blue. Don't know if you can see that. Can you see this? Just sort of lighting up in areas. Don't overdo it. Don't do it too much, because you want the darker contrast of it. So now we need some of the flowers in, little suggestions of the flowers. So I'm going to actually use the pink, like I said. If I can find me pink. I put colours down and never find them again. So I'm going to dot some pinks into this. You get pink flowers, I'm sure you do. Again, just an odd one near the bottom area. Don't go right down into the bottom. Leave the bottom in shadow up a little bit. And you can, in a second, I'll just tilt the camera a bit. So you can see the bottom. Little dots, and you can dot one or two just back into the light there, just blur one or two into the yellows. It's just individual dashes here, but just blur one or two back into the yellow. So the colour combines, if you see what I mean, it just it just combines. You're not making anything too. And do the same over here. Just 1 or 2 dashes and a little bit of pink. Even put some little pink dashes in sticking up if you want. Down there. Right, I'm going to put some blues in as well. So I'm just going to get a lighter feeling of blue and just add some blues in. And then we're going to put some sort of whites into them blues to make it look as though they're picking out some flowers in there. And whenever you do a colour here, add a little bit of it to the rest so it creates harmony through the picture. So just don't make them all too individual. Add bits into other places. I think that looks all right. Just going to put a little bit of blue into the shadow there, just to sort of create another sense of texture. If you notice the shadows, it's all different colours. It's all different colours. And then lastly, really, you want a white into some parts, or a very... I'll put a white in. Have I got a white? I've got a white somewhere. There we go. I'll dot some white bits in, so because there are a lot of like white things going across here, so. And especially over into the water's edge here. Can you see them? And you kind of see them. Zoom out a bit for you. Just here, dotting some white flowers in, and a few back there, and a few extreme ones into that light area over there, just pushing some white into it. So you're just getting that brighter patch over there, and then the odd one just down here. Don't overdo them, just want odd ones. I'm going to put some odd darker lines back in. So a few little bits of white here and there across the top of here. Just clean it a bit. It's only a small bit and I'm getting milk all over it. So just odd bit of white here and there. A little bit through the pathway. That's looking all right. Right. Need to just put some darker lines in through here. So just a thin brown. And just all I'm doing is dragging a few strokes through them flowers in places so they don't all stick forward. You get a sense of stalks or twigs just in front of them a little bit, so that not everything is just one on top of the other. I'm just going to drift a bit more green into the trees up here. And I'm drifting it across some of the blues so it breaks them up a little bit so they're not too punched. You want them to be punched. Just zoom out a bit more for you. And tilt the camera up. You want these blues and things to be punched through, but you don't want them to be too much, but you can just drag a little traces of foliage through them a little bit. Don't lose them because they're part of it, but just drag in some sense of foliage here and there. You can even put some brighter parts in, just as though the sun's breaking through on one or two, and just lighting up one or two sort of clumps of branches here and there. So like these here, you can make them just a bit brighter. But you want it dark here because you want that sense of contrast between the pathway, between the grasses growing here and the dark pathway. I suppose you could put a couple. I'm going to put a tree trunk over that side because I feel as though it just needs something in there. So I'm just going to put a little line just in there. One or two, just a couple of lines, but now I'm going to just drag through that so that it doesn't become too prominent. So you just drag through it here and there to break it up. Just down there. And I think I'll draw some darker lines. I've lost me really dark pastel. It was a really dark one. Just going to drag in one or two just darker trunks, just here and there like that. Just don't make them too much, just little touches. I think actually that's probably enough. I'll just put my pastels down. It's going to take 3 days to clean all this. Let's have a look at it. I'll just take that picture out, copy out the way. I'll zoom back out and mount over it. Sorry there, Jen. Morning Eric, I'm very late, been down to the art gallery in Bishop. Okay. Half the text's gone off there. To sort framing up. Our art gallery should have popped up. You should have popped up, Jen, not just hear me upstairs. You should have popped up. Right, zoom out. Lost the zoom. Where's the zoom gone? Right, I'm zoomed out. I'm just going to angle the camera around a little bit. About it, and put a mount over it. The mount won't fit it exactly, but it won't be far off. There you go. That's not bad, that. So that's just down Bishop Auckland, and you can see how you've got a feeling by just making it sort of bluey green. You've got a feeling of distance on them trees going around the side, and a strong feeling of sunlight on the path. To get the strong feeling of sunlight, you need shadows, but what you don't want is black or Payne's grey shadows. You want colourful shadows. But I think that looks all right. I think that's fine. Betsy, thank you. Thank you. Lovely. Yeah, I'll just stand back and let you, unless you want to admire me. No, you don't. Let's just try the other camera. I think that's too, you can see that camera gives too much contrast. It's very contrasty, stronger than what you want. So that's the better camera. That's nearer to the colours. That's basically the colours right. The other camera is definitely stronger. Excuse me. So what I'm doing is bit by bit. That's my pastels. That's what I've been using, them colours there. So I've been taking them out this box. These are the Terry Ludwig pastels here. Wait a second, you can't see. Here, these are the Terry Ludwig. These are mixtures of unison and Sinelia, mixtures of everything, and that's what that is, mixtures of everything. I've got some more pastels coming. I heard a delivery downstairs in the gallery, so it might be. Got some more pastels coming. Blue Earth, you call them. They look nice. I'm always trying different stuff. So, Janet, lovely picture. Thank you. Billy, it's looking great. I use acrylics and been painting since August last year. Self-taught, making lots of mistakes, but enjoying my journey. Yeah, well, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Just think, the beauty of using pastels and acrylics is you can do more. You can go over. So I'm actually tempted just to add a little bit more blue here and there, just to blur a little bit more in. But the whole idea of them really is just to give that broken effect. Pastels look nice. They shimmer because it's broken. It's bits of this, bits of that. Whereas you just wouldn't put one colour in. You sort of build the levels up of pastels so that you build it up so you see other colours below other colours. You blend them in. In here there's pinks in and blues in, and there's pinks in here. You can't see from there. There's pinks and blues, pinks in here and in here, and not a lot. You don't want it's if you've got a. I'm trying not to touch my face. If you're because look. If you, I forget what I was going to say now. If you have a lot of green in a picture, you want an odd touch of red here and there. It doesn't have to be bright red, but just a touch of red or pink, or just. And picking up this blues in, it's difficult to see, but you might see it when I take the photograph. I'll send you a photograph. When Lynn scans it, she took the other two down and scanned them. So when she scans these, you'll be able to see little brighter accents here and there. If you start doing lessons, I would be interested. I am doing lessons, Billy, online. Jen didn't want to be on camera. You didn't want to be on the camera? No, I don't want to be on the camera when I stand back, but never mind. Yes, Billy, I do lessons online. I mean, I'm doing this one, but I do lessons for me art classes online at home. I do three a week at home. We do all sorts of pictures. So if you sort of contact me, I'll let you know about them. So I think that's about right. Just put the mount over again. By putting a nice mount around it, you sort of set it off. And I actually think even a black mount round that might look nice, a black frame or something. That's it. That's all it is. And the eye does the rest. The eye blends the colours together. Even though when you close up, there's bits of bright blue, bits of this, bits of that. Get back, you don't notice it. But when you get forward, you see it. So I'm going to attempt, a second. Okay, you will have, yeah, so I'm going to do some more. I've got some canvases coming, so I've got an order to do, which camera on, that one. Got an order to do Bamborough Castle. I like doing Bamborough. A big acrylic, but they want the dogs adding to it. So I'll probably do that down here. I might do another pastel on Friday, but next week I might do this pastel. It's a big one. It's twice the size of all this, and show you how to do an acrylic, and that's going to be Bamborough with a beach and some of her dogs in. She wants that doing. So bit by bit I'll keep swapping around pastels, acrylics. Might do the odd watercolour down here, but basically I do the watercolours up at home when we do the online classes there. So I think we've finished really. I don't see. Is there any questions? The pastels are various. The pastels are Terry Ludwig's, which are that boxed set. That's the Terry Ludwig's here, like that. That's the Terry Ludwig's. They're square, but they're very soft. And then the unison pastels are mixed in with the Senneliers. The Senneliers are round and hard. But I prefer the softer pastels. So the unison pastels are soft and round, and they're as soft as the Terry Ludwig's. They're the same sort of. You've only got to end up just dusting in. Betsy, I came in late. What colour was the? It was a sort of a dull green, Betsy, like an olivey dull green. I always use a dark paper. I'll definitely pass it. Yeah, do that. I always use a dark paper for pastels and a proper pastel paper. Wait a second, I'll show you a board. One sec. This is sort of the board. It's pastel paper, but it's just on a little bit of board, not heavy. That's Senelia. That's called Senelia paper. There's lots of other papers. Don't buy, well, you can if you want, but I wouldn't suggest buying the thin Ingras and things like that, because they show a grain up when you do it, and it's no use on, you can't see all. See this. I couldn't get my easel high enough because the ceiling's low, so the lads over the road, our engineering department, made that for me to raise the easel. There's dust all over here, which I'll have to clean before Lynn comes up. I forget what I said. Yeah, the thin papers have a grain in, and it's very difficult to get that grain out without having to press on dead hard. And the same goes for watercolour paper. If you're using a rough watercolour paper, you're having to press on hard to get the pastel into the paper. So I always prefer a dark paper, a dark blue or a dark black, a dark greens, dark greys, like that. And that was a dark green. And you'll find that because there's some of the paper showing through here, there's some of the paper surface showing through in places, but you don't notice it. It becomes part of the picture. Just like that. I don't like that line there. It becomes part of the picture. So use a dark paper and put the pastel on, and don't use two. You can draw on sandpaper. I've got a black paper which I'm going to do a little one for you. 1 second. Now this paper, it's called U-Art, premium sanded pastel paper. I've only got a little, I've done 3 little sunsets on it, but it's black. Can you see? It's just jet black, and it's like sandpaper. It's very rough, and you buy it in different grits. This is 400. You can buy 600, 800, but you'll find if you get a heavier one, you don't have to use your pastel up because it's going into the grain. So be careful of that. Thank you, Anne. Thank you. What have we got? Messages. Another good session. Thank you, Trudy. Still just watching. That's fine. Just watch. I don't mind. Just watch. Just watch and sort of. I think that looks quite nice. That lots of flowers as well, and I've got flowers in. So there you go. So if you're happy enough with that, you use U-Art. All right. Yeah. It's a nice paper, but it does. You do go through your pastels. You do go through your pastels quicker. I did a couple of sunsets, which you kind of see around here. There's loads of pastels around here. Wait a second. I'll just turn the camera around. Let you have a look. Wait a second. Just put the right camera on. So, over there some pastels. That's a pastel sunset just behind the frame there, pastel sunset, and that's an acrylic set of trees. And that is flowers. Can you see the flowers, Anne? And that is Billie Holiday, Lady Sings the Blues, and that they're acrylics. And that one there is one of my favourites. I really love that one I've done. Steam engine at night. I really like that one. So basically, that's what it's all about. We've got bits, they're watercolours, and watercolours is always my favourite, like. And then we're back to that. And I think that's turned out quite happy with that. I'm quite happy with that. You've got to have darks, but not blacks. You've got to have darks for your lights to sing out. If you know what I mean? If you don't have shadows, your lights won't stand out. So if you don't have darks there in them trees, these edges won't stand out. So that's what you've got to be aware of. I'm going to stop now, clean my hands. But Lynn will, for those in my art class, I'll send you this. I'll send you the video for those in my art class. But Lynn will scan this probably sometime in the next day or so, and then I'll send you a photograph of it. That way you'll be able to see the individual little bits of colour, like little bits of blues here and there. Okay, is everybody happy? Everybody happy? Yeah. Right, I've now got to clean up. And I've got to get there's a layer of dust here and here. And if I don't get rid of it, somebody will be telling me off. At home it's my wife, down here it's my daughter. Right, thank you, Anne. Thank you, everybody. Betsy, you love you, Anne. Yep. Right, pastel done. I'll do another pastel on Friday morning down here. For those of you in my art class, we're doing, what the hell are we doing on Wednesday and Thursday? Well, we're doing a Lake Ullswater in watercolours on Thursday and a winter scene on Wednesday. I might swap them around. Jen, thank you. You'll watch from start tonight. Right, I haven't sent you. Oh, you can watch it on Facebook, can't you? Thank you, Betsy. Thank you. Right, so I'm going to go and clean up, and I'll see you again. So Friday I'll do another pastel, but I think next week it'll be an acrylic, and it'll be big. It's going to be bigger than this board all round, because she wants something quite big. And I'll show you how I work on acrylics. Okay then, folks. Thank you very much. I'll see you anon. How do I stop this? That work? No. Does that work? No. Right. Nothing works. I'm still here. Wait a second. Move that out of the way. Right. I'm going now. Going now.